Hey guys, what's up? It is the Culture Detective here investigating your favorite movies, and last night I watched 12 Years a Slave, and I'm gonna be honest here, I cried twice. I knew the movie's gonna be emotional, but I didn't know that I'm gonna be this emotional watching the movie, especially towards the end. Anyway, 12 Years a Slave is a movie by Steve McQueen, who has made movies like Hunger and Shame, and both of these movies are fantastic as well. But I think this movie is probably his best, and this movie actually won Best Picture in the Oscars, and I think it is really well deserved. This movie is about a man named Solomon Northup who lived in New York and was a free African American man. One day he got kidnapped and he was sold to slavery. And this movie kind of shows how he went through his 12 years as a slave. And yeah, that is the plot of the movie. And throughout the entire movie, he goes through many different things and meet many different characters that do not really show up the entire time throughout the movie. The cast is huge. I mean, we have Benedict Cumberbatch and Paul Dano on the first act, and then we have Michael Fassbender, who was in the majority of the movie. Near the end, we have Brad Pitt in the movie as well. Lupita Nyong'o was also in the movie for the most part, but we also have so many other characters as well. Even Dennis Quaid was in this movie for like a few seconds. While you can say this movie is a little jumbled, it's a little here and there, but this movie isn't really about those side characters. It's about Solomon Northup and his experience and hardship when he was a slave, and it was really tragic. There are a lot of slave movies out there sort of talking about this movement and this era in time in the USA, but this movie really hit me the hardest. To me, it seems like it is the most realistic and the most gruesome as well. And also, this movie doesn't do the, all black people are good and all white people are bad thing. There are actually decent white people in the movie, as well as not so decent black people in the movie. And I just really love how realistic it shows the era of the time is. Even the dialogue feels like it's from that time. And yeah, there are a lot of great scenes in the movie, more than I have expected right off the bat after he was sold as a slave, and the first time he got whipped, it really hurts to watch it. It was shocking at first, but afterwards it just hurts. And we have the scene on the boat where people who are just sold to slavery discuss whether they should fight back or just play along and survive, and that's a really interesting conversation. The music on that boat scene, it's not necessarily old music that's from that era in time. It feels kind of modern, but it just works really well, and it builds so much tension on that boat scene. We have this amazing scene where basically Solomon, whose slave name is Platt, he fought back. One of his masters, he fought back, and the master is actually played by Paul Dano, and he did an amazing job uh, playing an asshole. But anyway, Paul Dano's character was jealous that Solomon was being an excellent slave, because the master of that plantation is Benedict Cumberbatch character, Ford, I think. And Ford and Solomon kind of has this good relationship because Ford is actually a pretty decent man. And so Paul Dano's character was really jealous, so Paul Dano decided to find an excuse to fight Solomon, and Solomon fought back. So Paul Dano's character and his gang basically was gonna hang Platt on a tree. And then they were scared off, and so and so they left Solomon just hanging on a tree with a noose around his neck. And there's this scene where it was a wide shot, and it went on for like a few minutes. It's just Solomon in the frame, just struggling to survive, trying to dip his feet onto the ground so that he wouldn't choke or suffocate, while everyone else, all the other slaves in the area, continue with their own lives. And this shot feels really sad instead of being super suspenseful. It just shows how, death and torture of these slaves have become the norm, and it's just really heartbreaking. We have the whipping scene towards the end of the movie, which sort of serves as a climax to the movie, and it's gruesome. For all of the whipping scenes earlier on in the movie, other than the first whipping, it's seen from afar, and we don't really see them being whipped. We see their wounds, but we didn't really see the action. But for the climax scene at the end, we actually see it in action. We actually look at the person getting whipped, and it's really stomach churning. It's really gruesome and horrifying. I could barely look, and it just I'm feeling bad now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, Lupita Nyong'o is in this movie as well, and she did an amazing job. So after the feud between Solomon and Paul Dano's character, Master Ford decided to transfer Solomon to Epps, and Epps is played by Michael Fassbender, and he is an asshole, but that's only an understatement. He is very easily angered, and he's kind of crazy. He enjoys whipping black people. He treats them like it's his property, but in a way he doesn't think they're human beings as well. And sometimes he even blames black people for plagues. So he's kind of crazy. His wife is played by Sarah Paulson, and there's this slave played by Lupita Nyong'o who Master Epps really like. So Sarah Paulson's character was super jealous, and she finds a way to mistreat Lupita's character, and it's again very saddening, very heartbreaking. And we also have a scene where Master Epps sees Solomon talking to Patsy, who's Lupita's character, and Epps get angry. So there's this huge chase scene, which is kind of I don't know what to make of it. It just makes Epps' character even more unhinged and I guess uncontrollable. And of course, at the end, towards the climax, when Epps was basically leashing his anger at Patsy, and he also forced Solomon to do something that Solomon would never ever do, and it was just really heartbreaking. And again, I'll use that word, stomach churning. There are also various scenes in the movie where Solomon tried to fight back, maybe escape a little bit, but every time it just ends off badly. It just ends terribly for him. And towards the end, Brad Pitt's character show up, and Brad Pitt actually plays a good white man who really wants freedom for the black people, but kind of can't do it because he's just this one man. But it's Brad Pitt's character who actually helped Solomon break free at the very end. So there's that. And at the very end, when Solomon sort of reunites with his family, seeing that his family had, grown up a lot, it just it just brings such emotional impact on me. And Chiwetel Ejiofor, who plays Solomon, His performance in this movie is so realistic and it's so impactful. Uh, he's just an amazing actor. Same goes for pretty much all the other actors in the movie. Michael Fassbender delivers one of his best performances ever. Same goes for Lupita Nyong'o. I think Benedict Cumberbatch and Paul Dano are not bad as well. The cinematography of the movie is also surprisingly good. Usually for movies that document an era and time such as this, the colors would be very desaturated and everything would look kind of muddy and boring. But the colors of this movie, while they're not super vivid and colorful or anything, they do not shy away from showing a bit of colors, especially showing the colors between the rich white people and the poor slaves. And the music, apparently Hans Zimmer is the composer for the soundtrack, and of course it's going to be a good soundtrack. Come on, it's Hans Zimmer. What do you expect? The dialogues, they are actually really well written. Uh, it's actually written in a way it actually feels like they come from that era in time. And again, a lot of characters just come and go in the movie, and it just makes this movie even more realistic because that's just how life works. People come, people go. So that's all I have to say about the movie. It's incredible, and it's so far one of my favorite movies of the decade. And yeah, I wouldn't watch it again because it's hard to watch this movie. Yeah, but it's incredible. It's incredibly directed, incredibly acted, and I'm saying this movie is worth watching, and I'm giving it a strong 9 to a 10 out of 10. Um, yeah, enough said. So, have you watched 12 Years a Slave? From 1 to 10, how much did you rate it? Like if you like it, and subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching.